you know, as I mentioned, I felt like Viego didn't really do too much in that previous game.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of
There's
seemed a little
Yawn.
bit a lack of, for the lack there of better words, a bit overshadowed being from the Shadow Isles. I mean, they definitely cast the shadow, if not the biggest shadow that they can do. But yeah, Viego definitely went under the radar in that game one, to be fair. It's to see if Vapo managed to do anything to make the Viego pop off or be a bit more noticed. But on the side of Cordoba, they do pick up the Lee Sin. So again, just as great as jungler, if not with the likes of the Ornn knockups, the pickup potential for the Lee Sin to just come in, kick a few champions away, pick up a few kills here and there within a team fight. It can be done. Lee Sin is definitely one of those tried and tested junglers in Wild Rift esports.
Yeah, I think Lee Sin is just this aggressive jungler that can kind of run over the Viego in the early game. If there is a possibility, he'll find that opportunity. He'll jump in. He'll probably have the backup from the Ornn, as you mentioned as well. And it'll just be really difficult to try and kind of catch this Lee Sin at the same time with so much mobility in the kit. Zeri going to pick on the other side. So again, the priority in the bot lane here for Vapo, going for the Zeri and also Nautilus. But Corky being a pickup here. For Cordoba. Very interesting pick that we don't really get to see too much anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, Corki's generally been one of those champions that settles down in the mid lane, but again, we could see him be picked up as the ADC for the side of Cordoba. Again, a great mechanic for the Corki is the packages, so trying to steal the jungle objectives. If Vapo even able to get that momentum in game two, they have the likes of the Corki that's able to try and aid the steals of the Rift Heralds, the Baron Nashers, and the Drakes. But looking at those bans, they ban out the Vladimir this time around on the side of Cordoba, so they don't want that Vladimir coming around again, and they ban out the Kassadin also. So the late scale in mid menace there is Kassadin gets banned out, and then the likes of the Camille and the Gwen as well.
Yeah, very familiar bans, definitely on the side of Vapo, you know, banning away that Camille, banning away other champions as well. Varus is going to be the pickup again. I mean, this bot lane performed incredibly well for Cordoba in the previous game, both Draco and the support doing incredible work. So no surprise that they are going for the same champions again. It means that most likely this Corki is going to be in that mid lane. And now we have to see what Vapo is going to round out their comp with. We do have the Ziggs open as well. The Zoe could be a potential as well for the catch-in. It looks like it is going to be locked in the end. So Zoe for the mid lane for Vapo, and now they just need a Baron laner to end things off. This has to be a blind pick though, because we don't have the Baron laner just yet for Cordoba.
Yeah, they could either go for the Jax. I mean, he played very well for Cordoba on the side of in game one, sorry, but it looks like they're going to be picking up. Oh, okay, no, I thought it was going to be the set, but they're looking to lock in the Damashian warrior himself, Mr. Garen, Mr. Spin to win, just to try and catch out the Lee Sin with obviously the Duncan on the R as well, and obviously the potential speed rush he gets from his first ability. But I like the approach that Cordoba are going for in this game too, where we actually have some resemblance of range. We have not only the Varus this time around, we also have the Corki getting locked in. Finally, is that Leona again, kind of like an unsung hero in the support champion pool is that Leona. So it's really interesting to see Leona come through again. Another great lockdown potential with her ultimate.
Really interesting. They actually decided to flex the Ornn into the Baron lane, knowing that they come up against the Garen. So having that kind of tank versus tank matchup in the Baron lane and not putting the Ornn in the support role. As you said, kind of Leona fits that same sort of role. Maybe doesn't have the same sort of kind of possibility with like the double knockup that Ornn has. And I think that a lot of players don't really play safe enough, I guess, against Ornn as well. And they don't really know Ornn's limits. Especially we saw in the bot lane from the last game for the side of Vapo. But again, very aggressive laners here for the side of Cordoba. A bit of scaling as well with the Corki and also the Varus. But it's going to be very interesting to see how this Leona does compared to the Ornn that we did get in that previous game.
Yeah, it could be really, really interesting whether it's going to be something to try and catch out the Zeri, try and lock in place the Zoe, because as we know, Zoe's ultimate, she can obviously teleport from one place to another, but then she's going to go and zip back into that previous teleport. So if we see Leona try and lock down or even try and use Zenith Blade to just dive in onto the likes of the Zoe as well, could be a potential for Cordoba for the reasoning of this pick of the Leona. But again, I think the Nautilus was a great tried and tested pick on the side of Vapo, so I can see why they've gone for it this time. But a few nimble champions like the Zeri, like the Zoe as well. Great poke from both of these champions, not only in the mid lane and the farm lane, but I think it's going to complement the roster a little bit better for Vapo in Game 2. I have a little bit more hope for Game 2 on the side of Vapo, but is it going to be enough with that Viego? Are they going to be able to make this Viego shine? Unlike Cordoba, because all the other players seem to shine on the side of Cordoba. That's kind of why the Viego kind of fell through a little bit. So whether this Viego can be the one true carry on the side of Vapo.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to the macro, I think, for the whole of this squad, really, to be fair, because I think in the previous game, it wasn't really down to like a pick. It wasn't really down to a champion, really. I mean, you could say that the Ornn was completely popping off, but every single player for Cordoba was able to win their lane. They're able to win around the objectives. They played the team fights extremely well. And like you said, it's really up to Vapo to kind of step it up in the second game, or we could be seeing a very quick 2-0 sweep here, if it's anything like the first one to get kind of the grand slam, really, of a finals between Spain and France, two of the biggest countries in mobile esports. But yeah, we have the lockdown from the likes of the Zoe and the Nautilus. Again, the Garen was picked as kind of this safe blind pick because they didn't really know what Baron laner that you were going up against. So it's very difficult to try and pick a champion like potentially Jax or someone else in the Baron lane, because it can get could get countered quite easily. It could also get shut down pretty easily as well. So pretty safe pick for most of it. Again, Zeri's going to be pretty interesting as well to see what sort of mobility that she can bring to a team fight.
Yeah, I mean, it can go either way, I think, with the Zoe. So if they can position this champion very well in the mid lane or even into these team fights, obviously the further that she flings her first ability, the more damage it's going to do. So it's, again, it's one of those high risk, high reward champion picks there. So if you can manage to pull it off, I think Lilo could do great things with this. Obviously, we know that Lilo is an ASOL main, but not being able to get one of the champions from the Galaxy, but she manages to pick up the Star Chaser that is Zoe. So again, it's just all about seeing how Lilo picks up that. Because, I mean, the approach from going from a Vladimir to a Zoe is kind of like opposite sides of the spectrum. You've got this sort of sustain, very much in your face, trying to dodge any kind of CC move, very tanky if you allow him to be, then to Zoe, which is basically a glass cannon. So again, it's going to be either a detriment or a real show to Lilo's playability and skill as a player.
Yeah, definitely as a glass cannon, you do need to be extremely careful against the side of Cordoba. The likes of, as we mentioned already, the lockdown of the Leona, the Ornn, the kind of mobility that Lee Sin and Corki also bring to a fight as well. I think that Corki package is going to be really, really huge this game. You're going to be seeing that Corki kind of playing around the package, playing around them objectives as well, which is something that they had strengths for last time. Cordoba taking both the Rift Herald and that first Dragon objective, kind of getting that early lead during the laning phase. I think the big thing here for Vapo is that they kind of need to survive the laning phase. The 2v2 dying early on in the bot lane, the top lane going too far behind, same with the mid lane as well. You kind of saw when that rotation happened from the bot lane, it rotated to the mid lane, they had no priority on the map because that bot 2v2 had such a big lead in that early game that they were able to push the lane and go to pretty much any objective that they wanted to, and then they were able to secure the Baron, secure the Dragon Soul in the end as well, and that was enough. But it sounds like we are getting ready to go into the game number 2 here between Cordoba and Vapo. Spain against CIS. This could be the game winning moment here, or the series winning moment, I should say, here for Cordoba, and they could be coming up in the final here against France, unless Vapo have anything to say about it.
Yeah, just looking at a few interesting Keystones ruins here, especially on the side of the Lee Sin, getting the first strike there instead of the likes of either the Conqueror. Very interesting to see that come through. What do you think about that, Stu?
I think first strike is just saying that you kind of want to play aggressive. I think Gemi is going to play super aggressive in this game, wants to kind of go for that one-shot potential instead of going for the more sustained damage. I agree, you can go for something like the Conqueror with Lee Sin, but what you're going to expect here with this Lee Sin build is to go full-on aggression, things like Ghost Blade, Ghostblade, Trinity Force, items like that, and just go kind of for a full glass cannon build instead of being more of a bruiser, which kind of makes sense against this roster of Vapo, you know, with the likes of Zeri and Zoe. If you can catch any one of them out, then you could do a lot of single target damage to kind of burst them down.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense as well when you look at the fact that they've got the not only the massive tank Ornn in the Baron lane, they've also got Leona, who we know is pretty great support champion pickup for the side of Cordoba. It's going to be really interesting to see how they play the Leona as well. A couple of slap and tickle going on in the Baron lane against Garen and the Ornn. Nothing's going to be very conclusive here, but again, just taking damage, trading blows. It's going to be interesting to see if they manage to find some sort of conclusion up in that Baron lane, or it's just going to be a bit of a slap up, it seems. But we see a lot of CC going onto the side of the Leona. Sorry, Leona getting caught out there. I was just trying to track down whose health was depleted, and unfortunately, the lady we've been singing praises about gets locked down very early on.
Queenie with a really smart gank. Actually, you can see just the farm across the whole jungle and actually went for a lane gank, which is not something that players really expect in this sort of game. It's like trying to gank through the lanes. Normally expect that, like, hey, this jungle is going to be playing towards the Scuttle Crab. They're going to be trying to get as much gold as possible before level 5. But Queenie is like, hey, I know that my bot lane was behind early on this game. Let's give them an advantage this time. Let's gank through the lane. And honestly, it was such a clever gank from Queenie and really well played. And it's a much better start already for the CIS squad.
Yeah, Vapo looking like they don't want to be counted out just yet. We have quite a bit of aggression once again onto the Leona. They are not feeling Wexic on the Leona pick this time around. And the soul goes over to Viego. The kill goes over to Zoe. And again, once Zoe starts getting those items, flinging that projectile really damaged the Corki. And seeing Corki getting stopped in place and snoozed. If he wasn't snoozed, we probably could have saw a kill go over to the side of Blaster there in the mid lane. But fortunately for Lilo, was able to snooze the Corki. Very interesting that Vapo is definitely showing a stronger sign and a stronger drive to try and get this win in game 2.
And really well played there with the sleep from Lilo in that mid lane. Meant that you didn't have the kill pressure. Also had to use the flash away as well, but still really well played. 2 kills now on the side of Vapo in this game. You can see how Lee Sin kind of wants to jump in, play super aggressive, try and make the pick. And again, it's so important when you're playing first strike to be the first champion to deal damage. If Lee Sin can jump in, use the likes of the kick or the first ability and be the first person to deal that extra bit of damage, then you can do the true damage on top of that as well, which can be an insane carry potential for this champion in this game. But it's just going to be farming up for now. Nothing too crazy. Bit of a goalie though in the mid and the bot lane, and also in the jungle as well. So again, a bit of an early lead this time. I mean, this is already such an early game from Vapo, but we have to really look at these objectives now. They're going to be spawning in 30 seconds time. Is a rotation? Are the rotations going to come out early here? It does seem like the Nautilus is already looking to try and roam around to try and secure vision around this mid lane. And you can see multiple players are going back to base. The Corki is going to go back to base for the package. The Lee Sin is going to get a few more items. The same with the Varus and Leona. The backboard timings here from Cordoba are really smart, but Queenie and the Garen are already setting up for a potential play here in this top side.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how they navigated this Rift Herald spawn here, because we know this was where their demise kind of started to fall in game 2 on the side of Vapo. But already we're seeing Viego prioritize the Rift Herald. They've already run down the Infernal Drake as well on the side of Cordoba, so they're not going to get that full 100% split in the jungle like Cordoba did in the game one. So a little bit minor pickups here and there for both of the teams, but depending on how well this Rift Herald drop could be, it could be the make or break of one of these first tier turrets in one of these lanes. But still, we're getting that slap and tickle gameplay, a little bit of flirting going on up in the Baron lane between Ornn and Garen. Nobody taking anybody lives, but they're just happy to just just trade blows, do what they do best, until somebody comes for a inevitable gank from one of the junglers.
Exactly what we're waiting for at the moment to see what's going to happen. And this super aggressive bot lane now for Vapo, trying to make an even more advantage. Eventually the Rift Herald does get dropped in this mid lane. It might take the first tower, it might not. Maybe the Varus can do enough damage. It looks like the Varus can in the end, but you can see how more aggressive they're playing at the moment as all the Varus gets caught in the mid lane. Really good chain of corruption to stop that out though. And you can kind of see a bit of a split that's happening at the moment, but Blaster's going to get completely caught out in this scenario. A great lockdown from the Nautilus, and that is another kill for Vapo. So now we're looking at a 3-4-0 scenario, and you can tell already that Cordoba are playing a little bit more passive this time around because they realize that they're not that far ahead. But now Zoe might be in a bit of trouble. Flash away, really good timing there from Lilo. And they're going to potentially lose a bot lane tower as well. This is a really good strong start from the CIS squad.
Yeah, definitely showing a different side to themselves. It is the dark side of the moon for Vapo here. They are showing how aggressive they can be, but can they get their final kill on the board for Cordoba? And they do take down Garen, so could this be a full assault in the Baron lane for Cordoba to pick up their first turret, as they've just lost their Dragon lane first tier turret as well? And to be fair, their mid lane turret is not looking too healthy either. That could be a non-starter any second now, but it is looking like they're going to pick up at that Baron lane turret as well. I don't think Nautilus is going to stop this. Oh, he actually does with 118 health on that turret, and Ornn not looking in a fancy situation. He's managing to sustain and soak the damage from the Zeri as well, but comes through is the Viego, but getting kicked back by the Lee Sin is probably what Cordoba need to keep their team alive. Snoozing on the Varus, but Varus gets taken down finally by Lilo with that connect from downtown, and it is a double kill onto the Leona as well, but a double knock up here for Wexic, sorry, Enrique. So Enrique giving some homage to his support on his team.
What a crazy team fight in that Baron lane. So many plays happening in a crazy 4v4, and it actually ended up in Cordoba's favor. But as you mentioned, the tower was defended in the end, so there's still a bit of standing gold here in that Baron lane if Ornn can try and take that tower. But you also have the mid lane tower that is basically 1 HP as well. But Lilo, you can see how difficult it is to try and lock down this Zoe, and how much mobility she has as well, being able to snipe champions from afar, and it makes it so difficult to try and lock them down. You can see just play after play at the moment from Lilo, the champion being nerfed, but doesn't look like it's nerfed enough at the moment because there's so much damage being put down now. But it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in the next few minutes here for both of these teams. The mid lane tower is going to go down. The Zeri is just going to tank it up in the end. Completely fine, has the Bloodthirster, so can still go for that one. And now we're going to be really looking to see around these second objectives to see whether this dragon is going to be secured here by the CIS squad, or does Cordoba want to try and get the Dragon Soul for a second game in a row?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be quite a tasty Dragon Soul to get in the second game, especially with it being the Infernal Drake, because again, that's just going to empower and just make this Lee Sin just a lot more powerful going into that mid to late game as well. And to be honest, Varus is not looking the sharpest. He could do with some damage himself. And Corki, once again, just being left down into the bot lane. Until now, he is actually in the team fights here as around the Mountain Drake, because we're really going to count on that package coming through and trying to clutch the steal in the jungle objective as well. But it just seems like there's a calm before the storm. There is something brewing here. It's just one wrong step from either of these teams, and you know that the other side is going to try and capitalize on that misstep.
Oh boy. Both teams posturing around this objective at the moment. What team's going to strike first? It looks like the Ornn's going to overstep a bit too far, and the Leona ulti misses as well. Zeri jumps over the wall, flashes onto the Corki in the end as well, and it looks like it's lights out at the moment for Cordoba. There's not enough damage in the end. Really nice lockdown there from the Nautilus, and it's actually Vapo that actually lose a member in the end, but they take down the health bars low enough to secure this objective. That Leona ulti missing in the end was such a big difference. If that Leona ulti hits, everyone had blinking health bars in that team fight, but only one champion went down in the end.
Yeah, I don't think that dragon fight went the way that Cordoba wanted it to, because they've given up the Mountain Drake to Vapo, so no Dragon Soul for either of these teams in Game 2. So again, Cordoba really struggling with this team comp they got going this time around, even though they've still got the likes of the Ornn come through. Obviously, Varus this time as well. Not quite shining as much as it should be, but they are really struggling with this game, it seems. Vapo have got them wrapped around the finger in terms of the gold lead. They are even Stevens with those kills, and the Vapo are just slightly ahead with the laning on the turrets as well. But this could all change here in the mid lane. We're seeing a bit of aggression. The Chains of Corruption comes through onto Nautilus, but I think it's a bit of a non-starting ult there, because there was just nothing else to capitalize on that Chains of Corruption, unfortunately, for the side of Cordoba. Again, another non-started engage, a little bit of just trying to exhaust some of these ultimates on the side of Cordoba.
You can tell how difficult it was here, really, for the side of Cordoba to try and lock down this Nautilus. The ulti came in from the Varus, but you can tell how scared they are of this Zoe as well, because if this Zoe lands any single bubble, then it's going to be just basically lights out for anyone on this squad, and it's so difficult. You can see how defensive Draco on this Varus needs to play in this mid lane. The Edgenite is completed though, so that is going to help out a lot against this Zoe. That little bit of shielding that you get to block the ability means that maybe you have an opportunity to keep yourself alive. But at the moment, Vapo are in control of this game. Not as much control as Cordoba were in game number 1, but it's definitely a better start. You can see that just both teams playing pretty patiently. We've only had 10 kills, Blam, in 12 minutes. This is a very slow game in terms of tempo.
Yeah, very slow. It seems like neither of the teams have sort of got their footing in. They're not going ferocious with the tango. They're not getting carried away with it. But what could potentially get carried away is that pickup from the Varus. And speaking of just waiting for somebody to get carried away, we see that Zeri gets the kills on both of one kill onto the Varus, sorry, and then there was a pickup onto the Lee Sin as well for Viego. Viego currently on a no death run as well. He's died once in his lore, but now he's back not to die a single time in this match. And Vapo really put in some respect on the Viego name as well, because we saw a non-starter for him in game 1, but down goes that slam dunk onto the Ornn as well. This could be a potential Baron pickup for Vapo.
It's a brilliant game now for Vapo, and it's going to be so difficult here for Cordoba to really step up here. You can see the bubble. Oh, the bubble hits in the end from the Corki, and the Corki needs to back away. The Lee Sin was about to come back up in time and nearly got to the Baron buff, but unfortunately it just went down way too quickly. Baron buffs are just secured now for Vapo, and his Ornn pick is not doing the same work in the Baron lane as what it is in the support role. The Siona is struggling ever so slightly, and also just it seems like Wexic is not making the same plays as what he was in game number 1.
Yeah, the connections are just not hitting there for Wexic on this Leona. We were quite excited for this pick in the draft, but it seems like it's going to be at the detriment, because we not only is the skill shots not landing with the ult or the Zenith Blade, but Wexic was unfortunately caught out in that early game as well. But speaking of getting caught out here, Jemmy is on the run. We see that projectile from Zoe come through as well, and the snooze assist straight again for Viego, acting like the Sandman and just putting Lee Sin to bed there. But we do see a pickup, though, onto the Zeri. It's a 1-1 trade across the map. Can we see Cordoba do anything else with this pickup? But it looks like Garen and Viego are just going to have their way with the Baron lane as we see Zoe run these minions down the mid lane as well. So we could see a potential of two-tier pickups on the turrets and even potentially a inhibitor.
You can see how difficult it is at the moment for Cordoba to actually step up here. Bit of a knock up onto Zoe, though. There's a lot of damage on this Zoe as well. The Leona ultimate, the snipe in the end as well. And maybe Cordoba can get a few kills here. The Garen is going to be stepping up as well. The package comes through as well to, close the distance between the Corki and the Garen. And that is 2 kills over to Cordoba. They can look to try and secure this dragon. Now, this dragon is not really going to mean too much. I think the big thing that you can get with this dragon is that comeback mechanic, that extra bit of gold that you're able to get when securing an objective when you're this far behind in gold. And this could be a swing here for Cordoba to try and come back in this game. They need to be careful in this mid lane, though. They could catch out the Nautilus as well. Super low on HP in the end. But that is the objective bounty secured here for Cordoba. So that's going to give them a little bit of extra gold as well. They are still 6,000 gold behind, but this game is by no means over. There is still probably a long way to go in this game for both of these two teams, as Zoe looks to try and dash in, trying to get a little damage in the end. Whoa, the snipe from the Varus in the end, doing so much. We're seeing the scaling potential for Draco of this Varus, half HP with 1 piercing arrow on the Zoe.
Yeah, we see the likes of the Serpent Fang item being picked up here. We have the Rift Maker being picked up on the side of Corki. So is these things, these little functions, going to be the difference here for Cordoba? But I think that little play in the mid lane to try and get the Ocean Drake, but also pick up that mid lane first tier turret as well, is like you said, Stu, is going to put them back in the race in terms of trying to close that gap of that gold difference. And it has a little bit, it's only the likes of 5k rather than the 8k we were seeing pretty much moments ago on the side of Vapo leading the way and leading the charge with the gold. And you can kind of already see it with Zoe having 3 built items complete. But speaking of items, there is a brawl going on in Isle jungle right now that isn't actually going to conclude to anything on either of the team side, because none of them actually walk away with a little health. But again, I think it's just another non-starter. The Elder Drake is up in 32 seconds, so it's going to be really interesting to see how careful they play this mid lane brawl here, because it's not looking too careful. We're seeing the soak up of the damage for the Ornn, but I feel like if either of these teams lose a member before the Elder Drake comes up, it could be a massive issue in trying to claim that Elder Dragon.
So they're going to try and catch up with Viego here, and actually Queenie decides to flash over the wall, and Lee Sin is in a whole heap of trouble. He's on the opposite side of the map, and a snipe in the end from the Garen, the execution from the Garen in the end, and that is the jungler down for 45 seconds. Jemmy thought that he had an opportunity there to kind of take down the Viego, but he was the one that was being caught out in the end, and it's actually Zeri as well. There's so many stasis across the map right now, a little bit more damage, and that is the takedown on to the Zeri. So now it's a 1-for-2 at the moment. The team fight is still happening. This Varus is still untouched in the backline. If Draco can still do enough damage with all of his abilities, maybe they can look to try and come back. So now it's a 4 versus 3. This Elder Drake is still up. They just need to wait for another 10 seconds here, Cordoba, until their jungler comes back alive. That was nearly a disaster for them. Lee Sin getting caught out in the end there, but luckily for him, the rest of his team was able to pick up from the loose edges.
Yeah, they definitely pulled their weight there as Jemmy got caught pretty much with his proverbial pants down, as much as a blind man can have his pants down, as far as he knows anyway, being Lee Sin. But yeah, the nice pickup there onto the Zeri kind of negated that push for the Elder Dragon as well. So you could still see a team fight go on for the Elder Dragon. Just make sure that Jemmy doesn't make that mistake again, because if it does, I think that could be a game-ending mistake on the side of Cordoba, and I don't think that's what they want. They want to try and take a clean 2-0, but this match is anything but clean. We see the package coming from Corky. They're trying to do a lot of damage onto the Nautilus, but Wexic getting caught out by, again, on the Leona, but we see Corky take down the Viego. There is no smite on the team CIS region there, and they are forced to be pushed away, and Elder Dragon is open. I don't think there's much that this Nautilus and Garen can do to steal it. I think they've just got to try and force a little bit of a fight here to try and take the focus off the Elder Dragon long enough for Zoe to come around, because we could see that projectile come through and potentially steal it. But no, Ord is waiting for that block to come through on the projectile. They managed to pick up the Elder Dragon on the side. Thank you for showing us the minions there. Beautiful display of taking the turret down there. But we see that Cordoba pick up the Elder Drake, so they need to utilize this before it disappears.
Yeah, they're going to go straight towards this Baron as well. The jungler is still dead for 5 seconds, but a really smart play there for Jemmy. You saw that the Viego just stepped up a little bit too far, and Jemmy was like, this is my moment. Flashes in, uses the kick as well, and they just had way too much single target damage for this Viego to stay alive. And Cordoba have done the impossible right now. They are coming back into this game. As what was a shaky start for this team in this early game. It looks like Vapo kind of had it under their grasp. They had such a strong early game. You know, Queenie doing some incredible Gans, Lilo as well on this Zoe doing incredible work. But all it takes really in the game of Wild Rift is one team fight. One team fight doesn't go your way, and unfortunately, the swing of the table can definitely turn it around. And that's exactly what is happening in this game. Elder and Baron buff now on the side of Cordoba, and they're just going to push straight for the fight. The damage comes through. They're trying to lock down the CC onto the Varus into the backline, but I don't think there's going to be enough. They don't care about the damage of the Nexus. They're going straight in, but maybe it's a little bit too far. The stasis comes through, and the Corky does have to back away. There are blinking health bars on the side of Cordoba, but they are confident with that Elder Dragon, and they really want to try and finish this game now, but they can't. Their health bars are way too low. They really thought that that was their opportunity. They know they had the Baron. They know they had the Elder Drake. They need to just keep an eye on this Zoe to make sure the Zoe can't do enough damage, but already the Varus is down to half HP. The flash comes in from the Leona as well. The chain CC comes in, the dash as well, and the snipe from the Corky onto the back line. Cordoba have done it. The comeback is complete. 2-0 for Spain, and they'll be heading into the final.
Ole, 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 ole. I think it was going to be that clean for Cordoba there, especially how shaky that earlier mid game was. Very much like, is Vapo actually going to take a round from Cordoba there? But unfortunately for the side of Vapo, we saw that Cordoba activated. Clearly, Wexic gave Enrique a little bit of a Ornn 101 halfway through the match, because we saw that Ornn started to play a lot more of a Soaky role there, the sponging